Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Freedom Thinking Community Group. The date is Tuesday, the 10th of March, 2026. When's Easter? Soon. Must be soon. Easter eggs are out. Nearly Easter. We're nailing it through the year. Okay, my name's Dave Ellery. I'm one half of Freedom Thinking. Jen's coming. She's getting some food, I think, putting Lucy to sleep, coming in. So Jen's on her way. That's the plan. So just want to thank everybody for being here, everybody who's come. Just want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for making the effort. Really, really appreciate it. Without you lot, this would be a really crap conversation. So, and thank you to everybody who watches and catch up. If you're watching this on YouTube, or you're in the WhatsApp group, Telegram group, and you clicked on it and you are supporting us by watching that way, just want to say thank you and loads of love to all of you. Um, Hope you're all well in this mad time. Um, Yeah, please like, share, subscribe, comment, and if you wish to make a donation, the link's in the description below. That'll be wonderful. We've got a retreat coming up, by the way. Another retreat. This one is in the Lake District. It's in the beautiful village of Grasmere. Who's been to Grasmere? Matt, you've been to Grasmere, haven't you? When do you think's been to Grasmere? Lou, do you came to Grasmere? Yeah. Um, Yeah, so it's in the beautiful village of Grasmere, which is kind of, if you were to draw an X cross through the Lake District, you'd hit the cross. Where it crosses, you'd hit Grasmere. It's the most beautiful place. It's a very, in my opinion, a very energetically awesome place. It's got some fantastic kind of, if you're into kind of ley lines and energy lines, earth energy lines and stuff like that, then we're very, very, very close proximity to some, according to people who are in the know, to some very, very powerful places, which we're probably going to visit some of them on the retreat. So the retreat is, I think, this is, bear with me, I think it's arrival on the 29th of May for a 1st of June start, and it's a 4-day retreat. It's a 4-day retreat. So yeah, if you're interested, get in touch, book your place. Limited numbers. The last few have been awesome. We love doing them. Yeah, get in touch. If you want to get in touch, it's info@freedomthinking.co.uk. We are on Facebook, which is Freedom Thinking. You can find us under the name Freedom Think. I think it's Freedom Thinking. I think it is. If you're on WhatsApp, Telegram group, just drop us a message. And yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you. All right. And if you want to work with Jen and I, give us a shout. info@freedomthinking.co.uk. Can you hear the shouting of a 3-year-old or not? No, it's cool. Cool. Right. Shouting chocolate. Not at 7:15. Not tonight, love. Not tonight. I've had one of those days where I had I had an evening last night with a group of people who were very close to Dr. Keith Blevins, a beautiful man who recently passed away. He was one of Sydney Banks's um, students, for want of a better word. He was a psychologist, and Sid trusted him enough to um, pass down his last writings of a book that Sid was writing for Keith to finish off. So I was with a group of people last night from about 7 o'clock to about 9:30 and just listening to people share their stories about Keith. And yeah, it was a really, really beautiful, surprisingly beautiful event, really. It was a really, really wonderful time. So I'm really, really grateful for that. And I think from being in that space and just listening today, I've just had a bit of a reflective day, I suppose. And I wrote a couple of things down today, and I just wanted to share them and perhaps unpack them. Or if anybody wants to take the conversation in a different direction, this is about you lot. This is about all of us, okay? This isn't just about me, it's about all of us. This is for everyone. So if anybody wants to take the conversation in a different direction, just shout up. and we're happy to go in any direction. Okay. So I'm just going to open up with this, but if you want to change course, shout and we will. All right. Many people don't like to hear truth. They dismiss it. They argue it because it disrupts their illusory perception of reality. The discomfort arises from the human tendency to hold on to familiar beliefs and ideas, which create a sense of security and stability. When our views are challenged, we can feel threatened and destabilized. This is the individual saying that they cannot accept something that exists outside of their illusory bubble of understanding and comfort. How many times do we face that? How many times do we come up against somebody with a different perception, perhaps, and we don't like them. We choose not to like them in an attempt to defend ourselves. That isn't what this writing's about, but just in our every day-to-day life. How often do we choose not to like somebody because they have a different view of the world to us? How often do we choose to dismiss what somebody says because their ideas about life don't align with ours? How often do we shut down lines of communication and potential of learning something new because we are so steadfast with our ideas of how the world is, who they are, who we are? How flexible are we in our mind? How flexible are we in our capacity to be open to seeing the world differently? Now, this what I was writing this morning is with regard to truth. Truth being, you can speak to somebody, and I face this all the time in my work. Like people come to us, especially people who've never come across us before. We get a lot of work through recommendation. Most of our work comes through word of mouth and go and see Jen Dave, go and see Jen Dave, and people will book on and go, well, I've been told to come and see you. I'm like, cool, cool. And more often than not, if somebody comes and does a 4 day with us, the first day is spent arguing with us. They'll giving it what for. 99, well, probably about 98% of the time, 97% of the time, people leave with a very different view to life. 97% of the time, I'd say if we do an intensive, we get the result that Jen and I hope for, which is that an individual will leave with peace and seen through their troubles, and they'll find something that they can carry with them for life. And it's really why we do this work. But more often, quite often, I won't say more often, not quite often, I had it with a member of my family reasonably recently where it was just total shutdown. As I spoke about, we were talking about how the world changes, and I said the world can't change until people think differently. We were talking about the chaos in the world right now, and he was interested in my view about how would you heal that, Dave? And I said, well, the only way you can heal it is when people start to think differently about one another. Which leads me on to the other thing I wrote. Forgive me. Many want to meet extraterrestrials, as we believe there is so much to learn from them and so many exciting things to experience and explore. Yet we have a world full of culture, a planet full of perspectives and colour, and a species full of knowledge, just waiting to be shared. That we have only just begun to embrace. We are surrounded by terrestrial beings of our own kind all around this world that we haven't even begun to connect with. What exciting possibilities lay for us when we do. Listening to a piece of music by a man called Soulface, I think he is. He looks like Middle Eastern or Egyptian or something, and I watched his little video, and he makes music with his mouth. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. What a talented fella, Soulface. I forget what the hell the song's called. But just looking at this man, I was thinking, I know nothing about your culture. I know nothing about that culture. And it just got me intrigued. And so with that, today I went into a cafe to see Ishka, my niece, and where she was working, and this young kid came in from school and he was sat there, and he came in there to be safe whilst he waited for his mum, and he was only 10 or 11, 12 perhaps. No, he was in secondary school, 12, 13 perhaps. And I remembered my little bit of writing, and I was looking at this kid and I thought, I'm going to connect with you. I want to know about you. I want to know about you. I said, how was school, mate? It was okay. And I noticed he had this bit of an accent, and it turns out he's from Belarus. This kid had come over from Belarus with his mum. And this kid just opened up and just chatted away to me. And I had this beautiful conversation with this kid. And then he was saying, have you been to such and such a farm and taken your daughter to such and such a farm where they have sheep and animals and you can go and see these things? And I was like, no, I've never heard of it. How far away is it? Not far, he said. Well, why have I not heard of it? He says, I don't know. He said, I used to go and feed the sheep there. You'll really like it, is going. I'm so glad I spoke to you, mate. I said, I think Lucy is going to love that. We're going to go. Oh, excuse me. It'll happen again because it's Jen's sister. Yeah, I really felt the need to connect with this kid. Not for any other reason than just to connect with him, just to speak to him and hear his little story, which was a really interesting story. How his mum had come over for work, and since then his mum's lost her work and they're struggling. And then he went, I've got to go, bye bye, and left. Yeah, I suppose this opening is just about possibilities for mankind. I've reflected, I've come on a few moments of doing this work, and I've got so fucking fed up with it. There's been times when I've just gone, right, I'm done with this now. And there's been times when I've actually packed up. I remember doing it once pretty live on a media group. Tell you what, everyone, sorry, I'm done. It's a few years ago now. And Jenny was only about 10 minutes in, and Jenny came through and went, what the fuck was that? I said, I've just quit. And she went, you dickhead, I haven't. And I said, well, I have. So fed up. Yeah, I think I was expecting a lot from people, but through that experience, I learned to let go of that expectation. And but it gave me a couple of weeks to reflect, like, if you don't want to do this, what do you actually want to do? And I was in a position where I could do anything. I can do anything now. And the only thing that came back was, I want to help make this world a better place. And I want to live in a more beautiful world. And I want Lucia to grow up in a beautiful world. And I want to help people. All right, I'll stop being a dick, get back to it. I'm really glad I went through it. I really am really glad that I went through it. It was it was a really humbling and like an important thing for me to go through. I was really grateful in the end. I didn't feel like at the time I felt like a proper dickhead for packing up. Wendy, you might even have been on the call, or Joseph, for just getting fed up and packing up at the time and being done. But I'm really grateful in myself that I went through it. Yeah, we lost some people through it. That was fair enough, But I needed to go through that to reevaluate what I required from people in return for me doing this work. And I came to the conclusion you have to let go of all of that. If you want to help people, Dave, just help people. Do the best you can. You're not always going to get it right. Sometimes you're going to offend people because you're Dave Ellery. Um, just do your best. And so that's where I'm at now. And the thing that the reason I really do this work is because in 2013, when I woke up, it was the only thing I was kind of left with as anything of any value in my life to kind of, what do I, it wasn't even like it was a choice. It was like, no, now you've seen what you've seen, you have to help other people. You have to help other people find what you found. Because when that happens, we can start to come together as a species. And when we come together as a species, we are going to be the most phenomenal fucking things. We are already the most phenomenal fucking things in the universe, but we don't know it. We don't know it. We're trapped in our little delusory realities, and we think that what we see is the sum total of reality. We think that what we encounter as our life is the sum total of reality, that we somehow live within these confines of reality. There is no confines to reality. Okay, and let's just break that down a little bit, right? Okay. Just take the light spectrum, just the light spectrum. Okay, we get to see a very, very narrow band of the electromagnetic like spectrum. Very, very narrow band, okay? But we think that that's all the color that there is. We have this that you go on your laptop or your computer and you go and do a bit of editing and you've got that kind of infinite color hue thing that you can kind of click a color on and it looks like the sum total of color. No, that's just the color that our optics, our eyes can pick up. That's just that's just a minute fraction of light that is available, color that is available. We just can't see it because of our physicality. But it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. We know infrared exists, we know ultraviolet exists. So there are realities outside of our perception visually. Some beings, some bees and other animals, corals and stuff like this, and they somehow utilize this beyond our like the ultraviolet light spectrum. They somehow utilize it. I know bees see in the ultraviolet light spectrum, apparently. I know, I believe. Um, but things like corals and stuff like that, they somehow interact with ultraviolet light in a way that they cast new hues and stuff like that, new colors. And then you take sound and you realize, well, we only get to hear a certain vibration of sound, a very narrow bandwidth of sound compared to a bat, for example, or a whale. And I know that Rusty, my little dog, used to use his sense of smell above any other sense. What was his world like that he used to sense with his, what was his experience like? What was that reality like? So the reality that we encounter as human beings is a very, very, very narrow experiential frequency. And this is the way it is. Sorry about the Bobby, can you hear it? You're right, Kel. Wish you could. She sounds bonkers. But there's so much more. There is just so much more. There's so much more to this world. There's so much more to this universe. There's so much more to who and what we are. Okay. We think that the reality that we see is the sum total of reality. We think that the world that we encounter is the real world. It isn't. It's a potential. It is simply a potential within infinite potentials. Okay. And this is something that I really, really, really feel like if people could let go in this bit of writing, the discomfort arises from the human tendency to hold on to familiar beliefs and ideas which create a sense of security and stability. We feel like our security and our stability arise from holding on to our beliefs. Okay, this is who I am. This is how I work. This is what this is my boundary. I have my boundaries here, and if anybody steps within this boundary, then they're intruding and all this stuff, blah blah blah. And our boundaries can be all kinds of things. There can be ideas that we're rigid on, that we're prepared to argue with the next person over. Plenty of that going on in the world right now. When our views are challenged, we can feel threatened and destabilized. Okay. It's a beautiful way that we can overcome that illusory sense of security. And we can actually discover something far more solid. Thing is about a belief is if you believe something, it's not something you know. I remember a friend once saying that to me. So what do you think the difference between something you know and something you believe is, Dave? So go on. He said, well, if you believe it, you don't know it. Oh, yeah, never thought about that. Good point. So if it's something that we believe, it's not something that we know, but it's something that we think we know. Okay. And the moment we believe something, it starts to look real. It looks, because of the nature of the principles, because mind, awareness, infinite creative potential, thought, because that's the three facets of our experience, whether you like that point or not, three facets of the one force of life, infinite creative awareness, which is who and what we actually are. Look,
Not asleep.
I heard that. This is how our realities are born, and this is how our reality is created. Okay, at the moment we're starting to come out of the idea that we're just purely observers. We are observers. We are absolutely observers, but we're only observers of that we've created. When I say that we've created, everything that you experience, even in all your senses, is a manifestation of energy within the brain and the body. So everything you see out there is taking place apparently in the back of the brain. Okay, so everything we see out in the world is really light coming in. The eyes don't look out, they take in light. That's what the eyes do. They don't look outwards, they take in light. It's an inward thing. It's already an inward direction. Everything is an inward direction. If we orientate ourselves on an inward direction, we orientate ourselves with the way life works. So everything is an inward direction. Everything we see is light coming in, light bouncing off matter, and coming into our eyes and being deciphered somewhere around here, which apparently is where the image is created. It's actually created here and not in the eyes. The eyes are just apertures like a camera. And I suppose that bit back there would be like the film, old school, or the screen, new school. Everything you hear, it doesn't like between my mouth and the microphone and your speaker and your eardrum, there is no sound. There's just movement of air molecules. There's a frequency, there's a wave pattern created that hits the eardrums. And the moment it hits the eardrums, it's then experienced as sound within the person. Does a tree make a noise when it falls over in a wood and there's nobody there to hear it? No. No, sound is an experience. It's an experience of consciousness. It's an experience of awareness. It's an experience of the being as his sight, as his taste, as his touch, as his smell. Okay, everything is an experience, as is a thought, as is a feeling, as is a belief. It's all an experience, and that is the nature of reality. It's an experience held held within the oneness of all things on an infinite amount of levels. Everything is an experience, even down to the photon that the sun emits. It's experiential. Electrons, all the first bits that come into physicality from the field are aware that they're being observed according to quantum physics. So there's an awareness within that, and there is a knowing what to do, even from the most tiny, what we perceive as tiny, we perhaps consider to be insignificant things, is awareness. So the way that we can swap this illusory sense of security for true security is through the only way I've ever discovered in my entire life is through awakening. Okay, now I'm guessing there'll be some people going, oh, fucking hell. Yeah, right, look, that sounds really complicated and difficult. That's probably something that isn't going to happen to me. No, it is. It is going to happen. Don't know when, but it is. Because it's the most natural thing. It's the most natural thing in the world that people become more aware. Okay. There isn't, when I look at nature, I don't see a decline in awareness. I don't see a decline in potentials. I don't see things heading backwards. I don't see, as the poem about children by Cahill Gibran says, life tarries not with yesterday. It's always moving forward. So therefore, everybody is on a trajectory. Anybody who wants it anyway, is on a trajectory of awakening. And that is the way that I personally, that I found in my life that has the power to heal me from all my delusions that caused me suffering. Doesn't mean I don't create them now, but there's an awareness that I carry with me since that moment. And what that moment was when I realized truth. There's a saying in the Bible, truth will set you free. Okay, and that is a really true statement. I don't know about the rest of the Bible. Some of it I think is brilliant, and some of it I think is a bit misleading. My personal opinion. I'm not all in on the Bible. I'm a fair bit in, not religious. But those words, truth will set you free. You know, when you discover when you discover a fact, not a belief, when there is something you cannot argue that you know to be true, that has the capacity to, you would never need to work on yourself. I wish Ben was on here now. There's a lad came to our last retreat and he had a beautiful experience afterwards. He would be able to tell you about it. um, where he discovered truth, and it wasn't anything he was expecting. You don't expect it, you can't see it coming, you don't get to plan for it, you don't get to dictate when it arrives. When it happens out of the blue, and you'll be minding your own business. You will be least expecting it. I guarantee you will be least expecting it. Because if you're expecting it, it won't come through.
You get asked for it.
Eh?
Get asked for
Yeah,
it.
I think you can ask for it, and I think you can.
You didn't know what to expect, but you'd asked
Yeah,
for something else,
yeah.
to see something
I,
else.
I personally am. I recommend that personally. Like, I'm a big believer in asking. Personally, I ask a lot, and I'm generally not let down. But when we discover the true nature of how our reality works, and our reality only works one way. Okay, it's not like, oh, yeah, people have said this to me. I'm really glad you found something that works for you, Dave. Yeah, I did. It works for you as well. Sorry, it does. I ended up leaving a job because this lady my manageress got so hostile with me. She called me a one-trick pony. I'm like, yeah, but it's a fucking good trick. Sorry, it is. It's a fucking good trick. And it applies to everybody. That everybody is living in an illusory reality that they think is real. They don't know it. We don't know that. You lot might on this screen. I'm sure, I'm not talking to people who don't know here, or perhaps when you're watching this on catch up, I know a lot of you lot have got, you're well on board, you're down. But a lot of people are so unaware of that they have no idea that all the suffering and turmoil that they're living in is actually a creation of themselves. They are creating it, and they're creating it by the way that they are perceiving everything, whatever it is, anything. And if you want evidence of that, really simply, get a group of people together and go and look at something and talk about it, and you'll all see something different. We know that. You go and buy yourself a nice dress and you come back and you go, do you like this? And I'll go, it's all right. You're like, I really like it. I really like it as well. You're like, you don't like it. Well, I think you've got nicer dresses. Do you know what I mean? And you're like, but I really like it. And then you'll do the same with me. I like this haircut. And you're like, look at twat. Oh God, do I? And we all see a different world. So if that's true, then how can that be? And that's not some bullshit idea. That's a truth. That's why arguments take place in the world, because we see a different reality, but each person within the argument believes that their reality is the truth, and they're trying their best to overcome the other person, to beat them into submission so that they see the world like they do. They can't. They cannot see the world like you do. Nobody can see the world like I do. My world is an internal experience, just like everybody else's on earth. So everything that I am experiencing is coming from me. I am doing it to me. I hold myself responsible. And the moment people start to take responsibility for themselves, if we woke up tomorrow morning and everybody on earth started to take responsibility for their own feelings, their own experience, what would happen to this world? Because that's all it would be. It would just be a shift from victimhood to empowerment. Fuck, I get to come to this planet and somehow, I get to create reality. I get to live in a world of my dreams. literally. Sometimes my dreams are harrowing and sometimes my dreams are exciting. Sometimes my dreams are insightful and sometimes it feels like I'm so lost. But the mechanism never changes through which the experience is born. It never changes for me and it never changes for anybody else. If you are a human being, are you not a conscious thinking being? Are you conscious? Are you awareness? Are you capable of thought? And if you are capable of thought, which I'm assuming you've said yes to, is there an end to it? Is there an end to thought? Is there a cut-off point? Or could we continue to think indefinitely, dream up new ideas, dream up new perspectives, dream up ways of improving things? I mean, I don't know, that's a pretty fucking cool ruler. It's not just like a piece of wood like it used to be. It's somebody's thought, no, it needs this bit on here to run something down. And, they've rethought it and digital cameras, shit. Open it. Laptops just keep on getting better and better and better. We always have a new idea because we as a species are not limited. And as an individual, we are not limited. The only limitation exists in a belief. It's a thought. Like Henry Ford said, if you believe you can or you believe you cannot, you are correct. This is how imperfect the human being actually is. It's not imperfect. The human being is the most magnificent force we've ever discovered. And many of us still aren't happy. And we're not happy because we've never discovered who and what we really are. I've merely had a glimpse. I say it's a glimpse, a glimpse. And I know what I discovered about myself. I know it applies to everybody else on earth. I knew when I found myself, and I don't mean Dave, I mean the space before that, I met everybody else on earth. Not, there's Jen, there's Louise, or anything like that. It was, no, I discovered the essence of life. And the essence of life is absolutely perfect. And it's from the essence of life do we get to create the entirety of our reality from birth till death and beyond and before. This is where psychology and spirituality realign themselves, not as being two separate things, but as being one thing. That was a beautiful thing that I loved about Sid. Like, he was the first person who brought, in my experience, that I could hear. Sure, Jesus did as well, but I never heard that. Probably other people from the past, Buddha, whatever. He was the first person who spoke in my language that articulated spirituality and psychology as being one. Which kind of means that if people are really wanting to have a spiritual experience, there's only one place to find it. And it's within who you are already. And it's in the now. It's right here, right now. It's exactly who you are already. We've always been it. We've just identified with thoughts and ideas I thought that's who we are. That was always a mistake. It was never a truth, it was a belief. And when people can start to see that, they set themselves free. Like a lad I worked with in prison, and he said, Dave, I'm free next week. He argued like hell. I've mentioned this a few times, but he argued like hell with me. The next week I went in and he said, Dave, I'm free. So excited. He said, can you believe I'm stood in the middle of prison? I'm telling you, I've never felt more free in my entire life. These walls and these fences are not my prison. Prison was my mind. Yeah, that. All the time, forever. That's the only thing we're ever up against. We're up against the creation of ourself, a creation of our mind. The only thing we're ever experiencing is ourself, an aspect of our infinite being and its capacity to create. I just opened up by reading something of. Did I read that to you?
I've just read it a couple of times.
All right. By reading that. Anything you were saying? I'm happy to take it any way you want. Or if anybody else wants to take it any other direction, that's cool.
I was just thinking about something that Jamie said on the call last night, because we did a get together in memory of Keith Blevins, who passed a couple of weeks ago. And he said how he'd listened to Keith speak at his event, and he thought, we're on the same page. I'm going to give Keith a chapter from my book. I think he's going to love it. And
He's probably going to want to write the foreword.
yeah, he was really thinking we are seeing this exactly the same. And he gave it to Keith, and Keith said he'd read it and give feedback. And he kind of got it back, and there was like lines through it and red pen everywhere. And he was like so shocked, because in his mind he was saying, but we're aligned, we're seeing this the same. And he said that something in him kind of knew that Keith was trying to show something or point to something that he wasn't seeing. And he said it took him a year, so it delayed his book being released.
Yeah, it was just about to go to publish it,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
So, but it was that if we think we know what somebody's saying, we stop listening. And it's from what Jamie said yesterday, it sounded like he had to get really humble and keep being like, right, I think I know what you're talking about, but then I'm writing this stuff and you're telling me that's not it. You've missed the mark. This isn't what Sid was pointing to. And I realised that's just what we do in life continually, is that we think we know something and we listen through that, but we're not really then listening. And I don't know, it just really struck me again yesterday how Sid was trying to make a really fundamental, like simple point about how life's being created moment to moment. And then we create something and go, oh, that's the truth. And then we create something else and say, that's the truth. But it's never going to be the truth.
It's like when truth evolves. Like truth can't evolve.
It's always going to be the same.
It's just a constant.
But what I was hearing in it yesterday was one of the things that Keith had kind of crossed out for Jamie was that he'd said, the feeling is the guide to the quality of your thinking. So then Keith had said, well, how about something like remorse? How does that feel? But is that a wrong feeling? Is it built into us to realise we've made a mistake, or we've done something that we want to apologise for? And he was saying, but Sid was never talking about the content of thinking. He wasn't even talking about the quality of thinking. he was talking about the power of thought with creating your experience, which comes with a feeling. But he was never talking about quality or um, content. And I think that's something that we all get into so often is the content of it.
Well, that's what we tend to
Whether the
think of,
content is
isn't it?
is in alignment or not in a, like we constantly want to look at content. And he was saying, no, but Sid was talking about first principles. He was talking about something that comes before the content of the human mind. And the way that Dr. Roger Mills used to speak about it is he was talking about principles before the contamination of the human mind. And he didn't, I don't think he ever meant contamination in a negative way, but it's always going to be, in other words, that it could be coloured. Whatever we see is going to be coloured through our own mind. But actually, it's the first principles that have the power. They're the thing that realigns us. And it's not to do with, like Jamie said, it's so uncomfortable for him in that year to have to keep putting down what he thought he knew and then listening again. Putting down what he thought he knew and then listening again. And then he said suddenly something shifted in him away from what he thought the principles were pointing to and the aftermath of the principles to the power of the principles. And he said it can sound sometimes like you're talking the same language, but it's a completely different language when you are hearing about something that is like watertight, black and white. And I think it was so nice last night because everyone was saying that they'd had such a beautiful experience of coming into the principles, but for some reason they'd found their way to Keith and Vauda, and then something had shifted in them where their clarity and their simplicity kind of just became apparent. Like, when am I in clarity and simplicity, and when am I in all my personal opinions and ideas and beliefs about this? And everyone kind of was saying, it took their teaching back to a point. There is a point, and that point is, and I think Aaron spoke about it once on our retreat. He said it takes a lot to stay true to how narrow the principles really are, but to go deep with them. Because we always want to go wide, because there's all this other stuff that's so interesting and fascinating to talk about. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's lovely to have conversations, and like with like you, different one of my family members loves to debate stuff. You're not trying to really convince each other of anything. You're just debating ideas and getting lost in form, and this is not, it's not that that's wrong, but
It's fun.
that was never the point of this. The point of this is like finding out what are we before creation, and then you find yourself more in the feeling of a creative force that does feel powerful, that does feel creative, does feel,
There's only one force in this universe that can create.
yeah,
And like when when you find that space within yourself, you do align, you do awaken yourself to having a spiritual experience. You have to. You absolutely have to, because when you discover that singular creative fact and you discover that you are it, and so is everybody else, you start to realize that what we give the term God to, this infinite creator, you are an aspect of it. Now, if you discover that God aspect, there is only one way that you can feel when you have that discovery, and that is empowered. You'll discover love. Love is singularity. Love is how singularity feels. Okay, you will find a freedom that you don't need your beliefs to confine yourselves into this sense of security. You'll discover you were always secure, not feeling secure, but you are divinely safe. You are spiritually whole. You are spiritually safe eternally. It's inescapable. You can't step off that. You will never be destroyed. your body can be, yeah, but you won't be. You can't be because you don't exist within the realms. When I say you don't exist, I'm not talking about the physical. The physical is a vessel through which consciousness, the true you, gets to experience, gets to create an experience that it experiences and enjoys and loathes and all the plethora of experiences we get to go through. And then that consciousness, upon departing of the body is of no value. It just goes back to the earth. So that bit, that special bit, that animating bit, that force, that livingness, that like when that's discovered and realized it's true, there's just this freedom that arrives. And you realize the only thing that you limited yourself with was with beliefs, but you have that power to do that. That's how awesome you are. Love what you're saying there. That was
I think the other thing that I was going to speak to, which probably is not even on this topic, but the noticing. I said it to you the other day. My mum and dad moved last Wednesday. So by the time we got back on the Tuesday, but by the time we got back, pretty much everything was out the house.
timed
Apart
it
from,
perfectly.
well, I thought I was going to pack up my stuff, but and since I found out my mum and dad were moving, like we're putting the house on the market in September, I've had like different times where I'll be driving and suddenly just feel so emotional and be like, oh, I'm never going to be in that garden again. And like having Lucia out in the snow there and just being like, wow, this is the last time we'll toboggan in this garden. And I've done that with my nieces and nephews who are now like going like 20. And I did it when I was a kid and just all these memories and flooded with feeling and memories. And then on the day that they were moving, my sister said, let's go down the garden and you, mum, dad will hold hands and we'll do a little like ceremony. We'll do a little um like goodbye. And we all held hands and like loads of memories came back. And I was like, oh, this is where we buried one of our first dogs. And first time I'd ever seen my dad cry when I was about 5 years old or something. And and I don't know, I just didn't have all this feeling I thought I was going to have. And then we moved and we're in the new house and I've got quite excited, like unpacking and helping getting the house ready. And I don't know, all of this idea of how I was going to feel, and then it didn't happen. But then I just thought, but there's been a letting go taking place in me since September. Just a letting go of needing that place, of my security being anything to do with that place. And just so many beautiful memories have come up, which I've then had as like a feeling of sadness. But then it's like, if you're not looking at the feeling telling you something about quality, like it was just an expression and an experience that's arisen within me, and it's not wrong.
Quality is a judgment, isn't it?
Yeah, and I haven't
Yeah.
judged it. It's just been like this emotion is arising in me, and then it's subsided, and then on the actual day it wasn't what I expected to be, but then I don't think, oh, I shouldn't have now felt what I felt. But it was just such a beautiful example of we don't know how we're going to feel in the future,
But
and it's
I don't know if I missed you saying this, but what Jamie said was, yeah, but it's a good rule of thumb, isn't it? Did you
no,
actually
I
say?
didn't say that. You
Right.
did say that.
He said because when he was saying to Keith, oh, the quality of feeling is a reflection of the quality of your thinking. And then Keith said, well, what about remorse? Is that a wrong feeling? And,
And does it feel nice? But is it wrong? And
that's right. Is it wrong?
yeah,
And he was like, all right, you got me on remorse. All right. So you got me on remorse. But, as a general rule of thumb, and Keith apparently looked at him and said, why would you need rule of thumb when you have principle? You wouldn't need rule of thumb if you have a principle. And that's really the difference. It's like when you realize that everything you are experiencing is coming from one place, that is a fundamental principle. That is a fundamental fact. It's coming through you, it's coming from you out into your experience. this right here, right now, is only available to you because you are a state of energy, an infinite state of energy. You've never experienced this moment like this before in your life. This is a brand new moment. It might look mundane, it might look typical, it might look the same. It isn't. Look closely, it isn't. This is the first time, like Jesus said, become a passerby. Understand you are seeing each moment for the very first and the very last time in the eternal now. Like, that's true. And it's like when you discover that you are this energy, when it starts to fall into alignment, it starts to make sense. Shit, yeah, yeah. I am this space. I am whatever the hell that is. Everything I think is a potential. I can find an argument for everything I believe. I can find a counter narrative to everything that I believe. Well, that can't be a principle. But when you find that, and I invite people, I often invite people to say, please check, ask yourself, is this true or not? Is it true that the only way we ever get to experience anything is via ourself, via our own consciousness, and the way things appear to us come via thought? How I think it is appears real. Who I think I am, how I think I am appears real. How I think Jenny is appears real. Okay, and then if you can find that there is actually a counter argument, you could play devil's advocate if you actually wanted to do so with yourself. You actually have the power to play devil's advocate. And if you do play devil's advocate, can you possibly find a counter narrative? If you can, it's not the truth. It's an idea. But the fact that human beings only work one way, I argue all life only works one way. It's an experience. And that experience is created from a force called consciousness. It's created by mind, whatever you want to call mind, the infinite God self, and the power of thought, the potentials, the ideas that we dream up from that space, from mind. Infinite creative awareness, mind, thought, consciousness. I always remember Dick and Bettinger saying that, and I really liked that. Ben, thanks for coming, dude. Would you mind if we ask you a couple of questions?
Go for it.
What are you wearing?
Work clothes.
Okay.
I've just got back.
Nice.
I wasn't expecting that as a question, but
What are you wearing on your bottom? No, you're right, carry.
nothing.
Anyway,
I'm joking.
sorry, dude. No, Ben, you came to a retreat, and I know you came because of Lou, who's on screen now. I get the impression Lou's probably texted you and said, get here, because I mentioned you just before.
Yeah, I was driving, to be honest. I was hoping to get on anyway, but yeah.
Excuses, whatever, it don't matter.
Yeah.
But no, you sent us a beautiful message after you came to the retreat. And I know that you've been on a journey of exploration. Wondered if you could just share a bit about it and what it's meant for your life. Ben was on our last retreat, which was in Suffolk a couple of weeks ago, February. Yeah, just if you'd share a bit about what you discovered, and I'm guessing over the last few weeks, it's probably things have settled in and changed, and you've noticed different things, and
I don't really know how to explain it, to be honest with you, but obviously I had a bit of an understanding before I come on the retreat. As you know, I've kind of been in the sort of personal development kind of world for a little while. 4 or 5 years maybe. So I kind of had an understanding of a lot of different things, and I wasn't really looking for anything, but just come for the experience really, to meet everybody and just see what happened. But yeah, I kind of had. What have you kind of explained what happened on the
No,
way home?
no, I'm leaving that to you, dude.
Oh, I don't really know how to. um,
If
I
you
don't really
don't,
know how
I
to
don't.
explain. I don't know how to explain it, to be honest with you. Be handy if you played me voice note before I spoke, really, wouldn't it? But
Good idea.
don't
We got,
know. I'm joking.
oh.
I can do that if you want me to.
No, that's cringe.
I thought you said you were over that. Carry on anyway.
Yeah, but basically, I'll try and summarize it in as little words as possible, really. But basically, yeah, on the way back from the retreat, I was just in a good place. Like I was listening to a bit of country music, singing along, having the time of my life. To be honest with you, a really good place, and kind of had a bit of an experience that I don't really know how to explain, but it was kind of words coming to me, telling me things, reassuring me, words that words that didn't definitely come from me, because it was, you'd know from the voice note if you knew me, but that I wouldn't use the words that I kind of writ down and that I spoke in the voice note. They're not the sort. It's not the sort of words I'd use to describe anything really. But yeah, it was beautiful. I don't know what it was, but it was almost like reassuring parts of me that I didn't know needed to be reassured. Kind of, it was an intense experience of like an hour. I was just bawling my eyes out for an hour, basically laughing at myself, vibrating from head to toe. Um, and I just knew the whole time everything was all right. It was just immense. Like I can't really explain it, to be honest with you, but that kind of is what it is. And yeah, and I got back and everything was just completely different. Um, saw things differently. I was in a little bubble for quite a while. In fact, I'm still in a bubble, to be honest with you. But it's changed everything. Like yeah, I don't really. I kind of Yeah, I don't really know. I think I've been through a really like challenging period since then as well. I've left my partner and my kids, and for the greater good, because I was unhappy. But that's kind of helped me to put things in perspective. So I think I said to you in a message, I've been living at my grandma's. I'm in my grandma's spare bedroom as we speak for the past 2 weeks, and I'm absolutely buzzing. Everything's all right. My ex is happy. We're like friends. I stay around. I look after the kids. She stays out, and it's just everything. Louise said something to me recently, actually, about, I remember Jen telling a story of when you went through something and everything just seemed to fall into place, and you don't really remember how it happened. It just happened, and that seems to be what's happening to me. And I remember saying to you on the retreat, Dave, I'll talk to you about my situation at home. And I remember telling you that I trusted in myself, and it's funny because I've kind of seen that. I've just trusted the way I've dealt with it, and it's all so far. I'm sure there's going to be a few little hurdles along the way, but it's all unfolded perfectly, and it's what should have been like the hardest period of my life, really, because I've been with my partner 19 years, I've got 3 kids. It's been the easiest, probably the easiest 2 weeks of the past God knows how many years, to be honest with you, which is mental. So that's the bubble I'm in. I suppose that's the reason why. And it's just not paying too much attention to everything, and just letting things be, and just knowing that everything's all right, and yeah, there's nothing to worry about. And just recognizing when the little insecurities and the thoughts and stuff come up, it's just not paying too much attention to them, noticing it and just letting it go. Do you know what I mean? Which I'd kind of learned to do anyway, but not to this degree. And it's just been seamless. So yeah, don't know what else to say on the matter really, but that's where I am. I've got 6 months for staying here, saving up, paying the bills for the next 2 months for my ex and the kids, and then 4 months for saving up, and I'll be back in the game again.
Cool.
Yeah.
You said you went home and everything changed. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
can you expand on that a bit? I mean, you don't need to go into too much detail. My questions actually, that means me not articulating the question very well. Sorry, dude. When you say everything changed, what did what do you mean by that? I hope that's
Well,
enough.
it was just the way I felt about everything. There
Yeah.
seemed to be less attachment to fear, less attachment to like the mental storm. Do you know what I mean? It was just like, well, I was certainly like for a good 3 or 4 days, I was I just felt in a place of bliss. And I was noticing so many things, like so many beautiful things kept happening, like just interactions with people. And it was almost like, yeah, I don't know, it was strange, like call it coincidence or not, I don't think it was, but it was just everything just seemed lighter. Everything seemed sort of more peaceful. Um, Interactions with people. There was so much. I mean, I'd worked on ego and stuff like that anyway, but I didn't have to work at it. It just seemed to have been dissolved. Do you know what I mean? It was like, I don't know, and I just saw things so much more clearly. Like when I was walking around and interacting with people, like gratitude for moments that were happening, for conversations that were happening with people. And things just kept happening. Like it was weird. It was weird, really. Yeah, it's really hard to explain, but just general like peace, I suppose, and like a noticing, gratitude, and just yeah, not no attachment to any kind of thinking.
When you say that, no attachment to any kind of thinking, why?
I don't know because I mean, my whole life I've I've got caught up in the mental storm, and it's ruined everything. To be honest with you, but the storm might have come, but I just laughed about it. I was just like, and it just weren't there. It was just I just wasn't taking it serious. Do you know what I mean? It was like, and again, I'd worked on that anyway, but it was just I didn't have to work at it. It just didn't seem to be there anymore. And it has crept back in since. Don't get me wrong, but um, I don't know how long that period lasted, but it lasted for a good few weeks. And I remember the first day something happened that got to me, and I got caught up in for a few hours. I remember thinking, "Oh no, it's over. I'm back in the real world again." But I just laughed about it and just cracked on. And it's been sweet. It's all good.
Yeah. What did you do to make it happen?
Nothing. Do you know? I thought about this a lot. I think what mine. I don't know if I might be wrong, but the retreat was amazing. I had a really good time. I had a bit of a um, identity crisis while I was there, but that overcome that. I was driving home, genuinely having the time of my life, like singing at the top of my lungs. I had not really listened to music the whole time we'd been there, and I was just in a proper, peaceful, happy place. And I wasn't looking for nothing. I wasn't trying, and it just come. And I think it's
Beautiful.
because of the place I was in, the place of peace I was in, and genuinely there was nothing, no worries, no concerns, nothing. I was just driving home, having a good time, and then bang, out of nowhere, it just hit me, and it lasted for about an hour all the way home. So yeah, I didn't do nothing.
Like that.
Mm,
As far away it is, it's like you don't actually have to do anything and it arrives. And that's what I love about this. It's there is nothing to do.
no,
And you like you try and explain that to people, and I get why. I mean, I've been that man where you're trying to make yourself feel better, and but when you discover there is literally nothing to do, it's in the trying that we create the suffering, and we don't see that. It's not something you actually see. Like in Buddhism, I think they just call it letting go, or many things they call it letting go, and people are like letting go of what? And the thing is, you can't let go of the things that hold you prisoner because you don't know what that those things are basically in your they're such beliefs that they just look like reality. It's reality you don't question. And in the letting go, it's like it's not something you get to do, it's just something that takes place. And in its return is in this letting go is this beautiful feeling state and this phenomenal experiences and information, new information that you're gifted and it is literally available to everybody on earth if they want it. Literally.
yeah.
Do you see yourself as a special person, Ben?
No, no.
That's the thing, you see. It just makes you really, it's a really humbling, normal, like leveling kind of thing.
Yeah,
Really appreciate you being here, dude.
thank you. Well, I appreciate everything, to be honest. It's been a journey.
Do you mind? That's Lou. Yeah. Lou, and I know you've been like, I know you've had some, we've been there when you've had some shifts and seen you go through some stuff. Like, could you share a bit about what you discovered? Are you
Yeah,
happy to do that?
yeah. And it's interesting because what you said earlier about when you're not looking for it is when it shows up. Like I remember when we were in, it was in
Ilfracombe.
Tiverton, yeah, Ilfracombe, that's it. And I was like, I couldn't get my head around that there was the question that I kept asking you was about, yeah, but cause and effect is a real. I remember the conversation started about cause and effect, and I was like, I was so stuck on this being a real thing. And there was something you said about it was something to do with driving or getting in a car or whatever. It almost seemed like totally irrelevant to the experience that then happened, and I just had this massive insight, like where I'd describe it as literally falling out of myself, um, and it was like in an instant I wasn't me, and and I remember saying to you afterwards, after I was howling in the garden and walking around the town like a crazy lady, because everything just looked like I was seeing it for the first time. And I was like, oh, but it's not even thought, Dave. Like we keep saying thought, but thought's not like it's not that. Because it was such a felt experience of just knowing that that I suppose the only word I could use to describe it is like a one like oneness, you know, that it and the language of pointing to this idea that everything's thought created. And I was like, it's not thought, it's like, I just couldn't get my head around that. And it was just so much changed for me in that moment. And like I can genuinely say life's never ever been the same again. And I've seen like even on the last retreat that we were at, there was a deeper layer of seeing other things and how, insights around like pain and how everything's all connected. But it literally felt like that experience that I had in Ilfracombe was that I shifted into a completely different space in life. And it's like the way that I describe it is I used to walk around with a thought in my head, feeling in my body, space out there, and then other people and other things. And there was something that happened to me in that moment where it is like I just shifted into feeling all of it as one, and that's never ever gone. And even like where I'm at right now, in a time of transition, I'm in such a beautiful feeling most of the time. But then I notice like it's been really interesting to watch myself because I'll have a moment of like, or a day of freaking out, like where it feels like, oh my God, the world's going to end. And it's like a real, almost like fear-based feeling in my body. But I recognize I've just gone down the rabbit hole. And it's like in those moments, I've decided, like what you said about beliefs, like in those moments, there's a belief about myself and the situation and like what it means and what I need in order to be okay. And I've like my kind of my mind has just narrowed in on these two different things, but then I'll like pop out of it again, whereas before I came to this understanding because I had spent years and years in personal development and was experiencing a really, really tough time in my life. And I had absolutely convinced myself that there was something seriously wrong with me and that I was broken. And I just needed to find this thing to fix myself. And then it was like through the little insights I've had over the years, realizing that there was nothing I needed to find. It was just all of the layers of ideas and thoughts about myself and the world and beliefs and what I needed to be okay were like layering on top of me knowing that feeling that was there all along. So yeah, it's been a really interesting journey and seeing that every single one of us has the capacity to be able to experience and feel it, and we cannot not because it's the foundation of who it is that we are. Yeah, it's been really, really freeing and just witnessing, like seeing how it's even with what I've seen so far, like how easy it is to get caught up in it again, because that's the world that we live in. It's like constructed in that way where we hold on to beliefs and things that we think that we need, but the more we do that, the more we limit ourselves. And the moment we let go of it and it falls away, like that plan, when we let go of our plans and just allow life to show up in whatever way it's showing up, it takes a lot of courage at times, but when you know that you're okay no matter what happens, it's it's a cool experience.
It is a cool experience. I loved it when you were saying that. It's not thought, is it? It's not thought. And I remember you saying that to me, and I think it's at that point where, we human beings, we create an identity for everything. When Lucia was first born, she didn't create an identity for things. She didn't create like, dislike. She pretty much ate everything, didn't she, that we put in front of her.
She didn't eat food.
When she was born, she didn't eat food. But like she hadn't really created identities for everything. And we watched her create identities for everything as she's got older and older. And the older she's got, the more identities she's created for things. And because she's creating more identities for things, like things are good, things are bad, things are right, things are wrong, I like, I dislike, the more she suffers. And we've seen that, haven't we? We're like, well, that's what we all do. That's how we grow up, and we end up in some fucking lost states as we get to adulthood. Like, because we don't challenge our own perceptions, we don't question our own minds. But you see that even when it comes to something like the power of thought, like we create an identity for it. We think we know what it is. And then when you discover that space within, you discover this wordless space, this space that has no identity. And anybody asks you to talk about it, Ben sat there and going, well, I can't really tell you about it, to be honest. I don't really know. Yeah, you can't. There was no thing that you could hold on to that you exists within the realms of this dimension that you've assigned a label to and assigned an identity to. But as there is other light parts of the light spectrum that we are not consciously capable of seeing, and other parts of the sound spectrum that we're not capable of hearing, there are other dimensions of ourselves that we don't get to see on a day-to-day basis. They exist. We are more than what we perceive ourselves as. The perception is like a wave on the top of an ocean with this ocean state, identifying itself with waves. And it's like the waves are what we would call like they're the illusion. The truth of ourself is the water. But the problem with the water trying to know itself is there's only the water. So how could it compare itself against anything? There's nothing for the water to compare itself against. And we're assuming land doesn't exist in this analogy. If there's only water, the only way that it could create any difference would be through rippling itself, waving itself. It's the only way it could create any characteristic difference is through waving itself, which is what we do. It's the only way we get to know ourselves is through creating change, is through creating an experience that is constantly in a state of change. Then we get to constantly experience different aspects and versions of ourselves, we create different wave patterns on the ocean of self. And when the wave ceases and the ocean discovers itself, it's like it's a wordless space. There is no all the concepts dissolve and the ego dies. It's like the ego just collapses because the ego is seen for what it is on some level.
I'm gonna go and see. She's supposed to be going to sleep.
It's not looking good, is it? It should have come to you just then. Yeah, and the ego being simply a ball of thoughts, ball of ideas. The way that we survey the world, I think Sid Banks said, the ego is everything we believe to be true about ourselves and this world. It's a thought creation. It's an idea. It only exists in the mind. It's not who we really are. It's an illusory self. It's the false self. It's not something that needs fixing. Was it Lou said that? Yeah, it was Lou. Trying to fix yourself. It's not something that actually needs fixing. It's something that needs seeing through. I remember this young lass I've been working with. I said, like, we've been speaking for, I think it was 3 weeks at that point, doing a call each week. I said, what have you seen? Curious, what have you seen? She said, and the first thing she said, I'm realized I'm not a problem that needs to be fixed. I am not a problem that needs to be fixed. I wrote it on a little meme and I sent it to her. I said, put that up on your wall. I am not a problem that needs to be fixed. I was like, good. Because if you know that now, you will carry that for the rest of your life. You have that knowledge. It doesn't mean you will always remember it, but the moment you do, back in the room, just out. Looking good or looking bad?
Suppose kind.
Oh, shit.
What were you just saying, Lance?
I was saying. Oh, the last thing I said was about lass I worked with that just said, I'm not a problem, it needs to be fixed. Because that was something Lou mentioned. She discovered she was trying to fix something that ultimately didn't need fixing. And the way she was seeking to fix, she had an idea in her mind that there's this thing I've got to find, and I'm going to find it. And when I find it, it's all going to be all right. You were right on one hand. Apart from the thing that you were seeking, you didn't realize you couldn't know it. And that's the thing I encourage everybody, like, and I'll ask Ben and I'll ask Lou and I'll ask anybody on this screen, like, is this a wrong statement? Like, don't go searching for the insight because you really don't know what you're looking for. You
Like
can't
Nick said
know
on
it.
the course, didn't she? When we spoke about it's not in your intellect. If you knew the answer, you'd have already experienced the change. So what you're looking for is something new. And I think we generally keep going over the same content, but actually it will come from something new. So then we don't know that. So there's no point creating an idea of what we're looking for because it's never going to be that. And I think there is a playfulness and an enjoyment to life that comes, and it isn't that you're always in a good mood. It's not about attaining a certain state. And I kind of watch Luce, and she does have massive like outbursts about things. She gets pissed off, she gets frustrated, but she's just so moment to moment to moment to moment. And then last night I got really pissy with her because I really wanted to be able to listen to this sort of memorial for Keith, and she just wouldn't go to sleep. So I tried to have the headphones on, and then she'd overheard bits, so she wanted me to tell her what a heart attack was and what this meant. And I was like, Lucy, you just need to go to sleep. And then I sort of went when I got off, I started thinking, oh, bless her. She was just interested and I haven't been good enough. And I can't wait for her to wake up tomorrow so I can be nice to her. And she just woke up in this beautiful mood and she was messing about. And she's got this new thing that she does where she just suddenly goes, I'm like, what are you doing? She goes, I'm a statue. And it cracks me up every time she does it. But you can see this morning, she's just in the morning. And there was part of me wanting to apologise for being grumpy the night before, but it really didn't seem relevant. And it's like I have noticed with her, sometimes I will talk to her about the fact I was really grumpy earlier. That was all about me. That had nothing to do with you. I was feeling busy and I was feeling so it's not that I don't sometimes apologise to her, but I realised this morning she was just in this fresh moment where she was loving life. And I think she doesn't ruminate and look back in the same way and
No,
hold you
she's
to things.
exceptionally present, isn't she?
And I think that's the thing, like, but she has all kinds of experience. Like, she has your frustration levels. She can get as impatient as you can get. And it's like you'd think the end of the world, and then she's in the next moment. And I think that is what being here and being alive is we're going to feel and we're going to experience. And when we have less on that, less judgment, less ideas of what it should or shouldn't be, then life unfolds and flows. And then sometimes we find ourselves in this time where it feels like everything's just falling into place. And other times it feels like everything is just falling apart. And other times we're just so involved in whatever we're doing, we're not even paying attention of what's happening. And it's just, it's all that. And without all of the meaning that we create around it, it's just life. And we try and put words to it, and we try and point to it, and we try and talk about it. But like we're talking about something that's already up and running, already existing, and you get to have more awareness or noticing of it. And that's it. Like we're not more something because we've come across the principles.
No.
Like, and it doesn't make anybody less if they haven't come across the principles, because they still live in and out of different experiences, and sometimes they see that there is an aspect of them that's involved in it, and other times they don't, and sometimes they might see the totality of it. And I think that's the beauty of this, is we're not different or special because we stumbled across an understanding that's already
We've had
through.
experience. Yeah.
It's like someone has put language to what was already happening. And I feel so grateful to be able to, it's changed my life, and the improvement and the incremental changes and then the massive changes, and stumbling across something reliable and constant that doesn't need rule of thumb. It is just it's a rule. Has changed
It's a
everything.
law. Yeah.
Because everything is, I think that when that wakes up in you, it never goes back to sleep.
No.
It might seem like you've forgotten something, but it can't. But then I've got no idea what life is. I've got no idea why. I don't know about lessons. Are we here to learn? It seems to be, because that's what happens in life. We get born into this space, and then we learn how to be here on earth and live and walk and breathe and all the things. It seems learning's built in, but I don't know what life is or the why of life. But I get to see the kind of the how of it. And when you see the how of it, it takes something off of us in terms of our need to do it. The how's already up and running. I don't have to do that. But I get to notice it and see it and be more aware of it, so I'm not as blind. I remember Mara Gleason talking about it as like she'd live life with a map, but she just kept getting lost. And then she suddenly realised the principles was like, okay, you've got the map upside down, and this is your starting point. And then from there, she could navigate life easily. And it feels like that, the simplicity of that doesn't mean you don't then go off exploring and trying different things and being interested in things. And I don't know, I think the people sometimes will say, oh, I shouldn't now do this, or I shouldn't now do that. But quite a few people on the call last night were very religious, but the principles had, and the way that Keith and Valda shared had really done something for their religion in terms of how
There's a couple of different religions on there, and in the world, they're totally many of them are totally opposing right now, aren't they?
Yeah.
And there's
That
so
was the
much
beauty of
love
it.
between them, wasn't on the screen?
It takes out the fear of difference, the fear of any of it. You're like, we're just the same with different creations. Creations are made of the same stuff, so we're still the same. Right, but we get caught in the content.
Yep.
Content of us, the content of others, the content of difference, the content of the principles, the words, the noises. But that feeling that we don't then have words for is what then starts moving our lives in a different direction. It makes adjustments. Because we've got friends who teach this in business, and one of the things they talk about is life is born to thrive. Like if you look at anything, there is a thriving that takes place, and even if something doesn't work out, it then goes back in, and then again, and then again, and then again. There's a renewal. So there is a constant movement towards what already is. if that makes any sense. The renewal is an appearance of change and the appearance of renewal and the appearance of difference from one force. And I know when we had an experience together years ago, it was like it's through movement, and another word for movement is change, that life is created as we see it. And there's this idea of movement in time or change within time, but it's only through that idea that life looks like it has a past and a future. But the principles are about the only truth, which is there isn't that past and future, so there isn't time, there is only this moment. And that's where you fall back into more often. And in this moment, how could there possibly be anything wrong in what we are?
How could anything be different?
Oh yeah. She need me.
Oh.
Yeah. Say you have choice.
Good effort, Ish.
You've got no use.
Didn't think that was going to work.
I was speaking to someone just recently, actually trying to explain like some of this and what I'd seen, and when I was explaining it, I said to her that it was like I had an experience where I became so vast and expansive that I realized I was the sky, like this massive ever expanding space. And it was like, well, of course I am, because I can experience the sky and I can see the sky. And it was like almost having the recognition of that and seeing that actually, and sometimes a rain cloud shows up and I thought I was the rain cloud, or that the weather meant something about me, or sometimes like the sun would be out and I'd think, oh, that was really lovely. Or sometimes I'd talk to other people about my cloud and I'd see the cloud. You know when like you lay and you kind of look at different clouds and you see different shapes and you're like, oh, that one looks like an elephant, or that one looks like a baby, or like whatever. And it's like I can see the cloud as one thing, but somebody else will see it as a completely different thing. And the only time I ever get caught up is when I think that I'm the clouds and forget that I'm actually the sky, in which they're constantly appearing and the weather's always changing. And it's like the more I identify with the weather and the clouds, the more lost I become, because you're looking from that limited perspective. But the minute like I remember, oh shit, I'm not the cloud, I'm the sky, it's like that feeling is just instantly back again of like, wow. And like it's never ever, there's no edges to it, there's no edges to the sky, there's no shapes to the sky, there's no sharpness to the sky or wetness or whatever. It just is, and we've got no idea what it is, but different clouds and different weather continuously shows up.
Yeah. 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 I always remember my sister doing this beautiful piece of writing. She used to get messages, and well, she still gets messages, but she sent me this writing and it was speaking along those lines. It was, you haven't weathered the storms. I see if I can remember it. You haven't weathered the storms, darling child. You have been thrashed by the lightning, and you've been thrashed by the rain and struck by the lightning. All have shown you in the face of the things that you fear the most that no damage was done. And I love that. I love that bit of writing, because it was talking about, because my sister went through a very hard time with her ex-husband and she kept him alive. And it was very challenging. But this bit of writing that came through, it was saying, life's hard sometimes. Life's going to bring you challenges. That's life. But all these challenges have shown you that in spite of you're the hardest things you thought you could possibly face, in spite of facing the hardest things, no damage was done to you. You were not damaged. People are so afraid that they're going to get hurt. They're so afraid that they're going to be permanently damaged and hurt, and you're not. People talk about their scars. But what about my scars, Dave? What about my scars? Your scars are a memory. They're a thought. So yeah, what about that thought? What about it? Yeah, but it feels bad. Okay, I'm not being disrespectful, I'm not being rude, but then what? But I don't like it. Yeah, all right. But but then what? Then what? I'm not being cruel when I say that. I'm just being seriously. But then what? What's going to happen? You have a feeling you don't like. Yeah, then what? Then it goes. At some point, it leaves you. You forget about it. You move on. That's life. You forget about it. You're going to forget about it because mind does not create the same thing continuously. The ocean does not create the same wave pattern continuously. It's impossible for the ocean to create the same wave pattern continuously. It doesn't. Every single moment is a unique expression of wave pattern on an ocean. Nobody gets damaged. And the thing that you wake up to is that I have never been, I'm fine. I'm whole. I'm fine. Fucking hell, I always was. I just didn't know it. Lou, in your experience, have you come across a human being that kind of books that trend that doesn't apply to?
No, never.
Have you, so in your whole life, you've never come across somebody who that doesn't apply to?
No.
Ben,
No, definitely not.
no, anybody else? Laura shaking her head. No. So if at some point you're somebody who is listening to this, perhaps you're new to this and we're driving you mad, what the fuck are you lot talking about? Firstly, we don't really know what the hell we're talking about. And I mean that. I mean that. I professionally talk about something I haven't got a fucking clue about. What a cool job. What a fucking cool job that is, eh? Ellery doesn't know what he's talking about. No, you're right. Absolutely correct. I haven't got a clue. And I really don't. But that's why I love this. That's why I love discovering about life because Socrates said true knowledge is knowing you know nothing. Like, it sounded like pretty words at one point, but now I look at that and I'm like, this is just true. Got a fucking clue. Like, but that's the mystery of life. If you're in a mystery, you cannot suffer it. You only suffer what you think you know. When you're in the mystery, you are in awe. When you're in the mystery, you're in alignment with truth. It will always be a mystery. All of it. The identities I create for everybody who I think everybody else is, nobody on earth else sees them like I do. They only exist to me like that. Lou only exists to me how Lou appears to me, nobody else sees her in the entire universe like I see her, and likewise with Ben or Joe or Laura, Rach, Amanda, whoever. It's everybody I know is a unique expression of me because I create their character. The person I think I know is a creation of my own mind. That's why people can like people and the other person can dislike them. That's why I know that my father sees me very different to the way Lucia sees me. Who my father meets is a very different person to who my mother meets, who's a very different person to who my sister meets, who is a very different person to who Jen meets. We all meet different people. Why? Because everybody is a creation of us. We create them. We meet a person and then we create an identity for them. Well, it goes on for everything. That's what's happening. It's not real. We think it's real. It's not real. You just think it's real, like Sid Banks said. And we've lived our lives as though the illusion was the truth and the truth was the illusion. Meaning, we've lived our life as though the real reality was what we see, hear, taste, touch, smell, believe. And the creative force, well, that's an illusion. That's just a story. Oh, that's that God stuff, isn't it? That's that God thing. Yeah, it's all bollocks, isn't it? When in actual fact, no, the reality we encounter is the illusion. Why is it an illusion? Well, nobody on earth sees the reality I see. I know that. That's why I can have differing opinions to everybody else. That's why I have my places I love and other people really don't like going there. They want to go there. They don't want to do what I want to do. They don't want to go metal detecting or fucking climbing trees or something. Go camping, some mad place. I want to go and do that. So we see a different world. So if we're all seeing a different world, who is it who's seeing the true reality? Like, who is it? Who is the one person who sees the true reality if there is 8 billion people each seeing a different world? Who is it? I don't know. Never met them. But then you look at the principle of how it all comes to be, that we all get to see this separate reality, and you realize the mechanism is the same for everybody on Earth. The mechanics of how it comes into being, the reality, well, it's a state of consciousness. First of all, there has to be awareness to actually know life itself. And then there's this force of infinite creation that gets to decide and think and assign identities and create likes and dislikes and truths and falsehoods and all this kind of stuff. And well, that's the same for everybody on Earth. So what we thought was the truth turns out to be the illusion, and what we thought was the illusion turns out to be the truth. That's why we've struggled in this world. That's why Mara Gleason said it was like walking with a map, the wrong way round, with no idea of where I was to begin with. Oh, you're here and now. And life's not happening to you, it's happening through you. It's happening because of you. You are your own answer. We are that we seek. Who said that? I am that I seek. No exceptions. Nobody's broken. You want to know true security. What was it? You want to know true security and you want to know true stability. You won't find it in something that's always changing. It's like the parable of the man that built his house on sand. Why did it not stand? Because the sand kept moving and changing, and it wasn't built on a secure foundation. It's the ego. Trying to find ourselves in our beliefs and ideas and trying to find this thing and it a fix. When I find that thing and it a fix, that broken aspect of me, that's the man that built his house on sand. And then all of a sudden, the woman who built a house on sand suddenly sees, shit, I've built my house on sand. But do you know what? Just realized the sand is rock now. And I've built my house on rock. And it stands firm. Ben said there was a shift. And everything changed. Yet the world didn't change. Circumstance didn't change. Ben changed. When Ben changed inside, when Ben's consciousness changed, reality changed. Ben's world changed. He walked in a different world. He met different people, even the people he thought he knew. He met them anew. He met them afresh. Like Lou said, it's like walking through this world and seeing everything for the first time. Yeah, you're seeing life without identities that you think, and you're seeing the mystery and the marvel of, you get to marvel at the mystery of existence. And you, when the identities have collapsed, it's like what you're left with is this awe. And that awe feels fantastic. That, as I said to a lady once who I was doing some work with, when she was smiling at me, how do you feel right now? Should I feel really good? Thinking about the future or the past? No. Yeah, that's what life feels like. That's what life itself feels like. Minus all the identities and ideas assigned to it. Life feels amazing. The livingness of life when it's allowed is the most wonderful feeling. And that's what we all are. It takes more energy to create suffering than it does to create peace. Because it takes more effort to generate thoughts and experiences and mental turbulence than it does to find peace, because peace is just what returns when we let go. It's geared that way, but like we had it inverted, we've had that inverted too. We thought we've had to effort our way to peace. No, you let go. You allow it. It's there. It's fundamental. It's truth. It's what's there in the beginning and it's what's left at the end. It's what's there, a constant underneath all of it. The ocean never went anywhere. It's only the surface that's turbulent. Any diver knows that. Thankfully, we're not a wave. with the ocean. All of us. No exceptions. Ever. It's impossible. Does anybody else want to say anything before we finish? No. Right. Thank you all so much for being here. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for your presence. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. All of you. Stars. And thank you to everybody who's watching this in catch up if you made it to the end. Well done. Sending you so much love. Again, if you're interested in the retreat, get in touch. info@freedomthinking.co.uk. The email's in the bottom. We still haven't had our website rebuilt yet after it was destroyed by bots. We need to get onto that. Yeah, we do need to get onto that. Yeah, please like, share, subscribe, comment. Please do. And yeah, if you want to work with Jen and I, get in touch. Come and see us. All right. Send you so much love. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, Dave. See you later.
Well,
Thank
God bless.
you. Thanks,
Take
Dave.
care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Loads of love, everyone.